and AM 990.
Listen to you move your mouth. I bet you come from way down south. Now don't tell me, let me guess. You from the town that I love best. Talk Memphis, I wish you would. Talk Memphis, you sound so good. Talk Memphis, high on the bluff. I swear I can't get enough. Listening to you talk that stuff. Talk Memphis, oh yeah. Talk Memphis.
This is the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. And now, here's your host, Dean Harris.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Memphis Real Estate Hour. I am your host, Dean Harris. I'm with CrestCore Realty. We're over on Summer Avenue in our nice new building across from the AutoZone. Thank you guys for tuning in here at AM 990 Memphis, 107.9 FM. Some of you might be streaming the show online, kwam990.com. The Memphis Real Estate Hour, guys, will concentrate on investing in Memphis real estate. We'll also focus on some of our residential real estate market. I'll have local and national vendors, partners of ours on the show from time to time. And they'll be sharing some of their knowledge with you guys on how to become an investor or become a better investor here in Memphis. Remind you every single show that I am an investor. If you have that old home that you need to sell quickly, or if you know someone that has a home they need to sell extremely quick, give me a call or text, email 901-619-6170. You can email me at dean@crestcore.com. You can also log on to our website, CrestCoreRealty.com. You can register to become a preferred buyer partner of ours. You can tell us kind of what product you're looking for, what price range, what rental range, and we'll go ahead and get you set up and start sending you properties that come across our desk. Today and last week, I gave you a good BRRRR strategy property. I've got the same house for you today. I want to make sure that I get that out for a couple of weeks until we get that one sold. That's a great opportunity for anybody that's looking for the BRRRR strategy. If you've heard us talk about the BRRRR, it's the letter B and 4 R's. So we'll be talking about that at the bottom of the hour. Last week's show, I discussed top 10 ways to make money in real estate with Dan Butler. We had some really good feedback on that. That's one of the things I've always liked about real estate is there's many, many, many different ways that you can make money in the real estate business. So we talked about those last week. I posted the show on our Facebook page, the Memphis Real Estate Hour on Facebook. You can go back and check out not only that show, but I think we've got 23, 24 of our past shows that are on there. So pretty much any topic that you're looking for, we have likely covered it, and it will be on the show's Facebook page. Today, we're going to have the investment of the week at the bottom of the hour. I've got Dan Butler in here talking about why use CrestCore Realty, why use us for management, why use us for the brokerage side of it. We're going to talk to you about several different ways of how we can help you. We don't normally come on and put ourselves over on the show, but I thought today is going to be a little bit of an opportunity to tell you about us, what we stand for, and some of the reasons why our national investors trust us so much. So let's dive right into it. Dan, welcome to the show.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Let's talk, the key thing that we talk about with a lot of investors is find out what your time is worth.
Mm-hmm.
Find out, how much you want to put into this and what you want to get out of it in return.
Right. Property
management has always been, I don't think I've ever had an investor that I advised to not use a property management company.
Right.
Even if they already had another one and they weren't going to use us, that's fine. Use a management company, though. What are some of the things that pop into your head as reasons why? And you can answer this from an investor standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
You're clearly a homeowner or a property owner. What are some of the reasons why you started using, a property manager?
Well, back when I started 2001, I did manage myself, by myself. And looking back on it now, I wasted hours and hours that I could have done some better, more value-added activities, whether it's analyzing more deals, analyzing the performance of the portfolio and kicking out, houses that shouldn't be in there.
Right.
Time with the family.
Yep.
So we always say you're either going to pay with your time or your money. And so I think that's one thing I've learned, over the years is just my time is too valuable. So, that's why we created CrestCore, to be honest with you, was to create time.
I mean, I remember calling you, on Saturdays.
Yeah.
What's going on? Hey, man, what are you up to? I'm driving around, picking up checks.
Picking up checks, picking up cash, checking signs, fixing little things here and there. Listen to about 1,000 different stories of
you can't pay
why
rent.
can't they pay rent, or what their plan is, or
that becomes more of a personal thing then, right? I mean, they're pulling on your personal
gosh.
heartstrings, and it turns into where, yes, you want to be in the business to help people if they genuinely
Absolutely.
need help. But I think the general consensus is that most people don't actually need the help. They have, they're just running through the process and trying to get whatever they can out of it.
And because of my work with inner city and volunteering a lot down there and mentoring people and talking to classes, and some of that's just a mind shift, of the belief of entitlement, or playing a game, survivalist.
Yeah.
One paycheck to paycheck. I mean, there's all kinds of, it's just a lumped up sum,
Yep.
that you can't necessarily blame that person, for their mindset, but you cannot enable that mindset. That's where I was probably least successful, as I was enabling it.
Right. Just trying to do the right thing.
Just trying to help. Didn't
there's
want to
a
kick
fine
somebody.
line.
Yeah, you don't want to kick somebody out on the curb, or do something like that. So, yeah, I think that's probably one thing that was tough for me, was just, being a soft landlord. So when I went to property management and turned over, to our team, my collections went up, several percentage points
Right.
immediately.
Right.
And just because they're more objective versus subjective,
Yeah.
and they're just running the business, and they look at it like, the owner's got to pay his bills,
Yeah.
just like you have to pay your bills. You
Yeah.
signed up for this house. I'm sorry for all those things you're going through, outside of paying your rent.
Mm-hmm.
But, you'd want the roof over your head to come first, and that's where
Yeah.
some of that gets lost,
Talk about the pace in your growth. Like, did that help you get to another level from how many doors you own, or was it, in other words,
Yes.
you had to pay out some, I know. So you take
It costs money. That's
Yeah, you
right.
take a little step backwards from a return every month. But how did that translate into boosting you into more growth?
Just basically allowed us to have more time to look at more deals and talk to the banks and peruse Craigslist ads and talk to wholesalers and get with agents and make more offers. I mean, that's where it really freed me up, versus driving every Saturday. And I think it helped, the family life, the marriage, and all that good stuff too. Just, I can remember the kids being 3 years old, 1 year old, and I get a call in Berkeley to go show a house. Somebody's really wanting to see it, and
You felt like you had to go.
I had to go. All right, well, leave my food here. I'll come back in an hour. And I would literally leave, for an hour and go show that house. And, and 9 times out of 10, they didn't, they weren't qualified tenant anyway. So that's some of the systems we put in place with pre-qualifications and stuff like that. So that's helped tremendously on the, on that side. But
to the guy that's out there, or gal that's out there, as soon as I said guy, I got plenty of gal investors.
oh yeah,
Got plenty of females that are driving
They
that
love it,
train.
yeah.
They do love it. To the guy or gal that's listening right now, what is the magic number? And let's say they're managing on their own.
Yeah.
You did this. I
Yep.
know we've talked about what's the magic number of ownership to where it's not driving you nuts, and that's 10 or 11,
Yep,
right in
yep.
that ballpark. What's the magic number of managing your own or managing for other people that you think, hey, I got to get out of this. I got to get this off of me and onto a professional?
Well, it's a little bit of a, it depends. It sounds like a political answer, but, is it A property, B property, or C property?
Yeah.
Most investors are going to hover in that C, B minus, right?
Most.
To start. You see
It's
some
the
of our-
best numbers initially.
the best numbers, the cash flow, but those are the harder to manage. So it's just a general rule of thumb. I'd say, from 1 to 20 is probably a doable number by yourself, and you probably could do more, but, I can remember running with Douglas one Saturday morning, and, I was working at Georgia Pacific, had my corporate job, was doing the Saturday, Sunday at night thing.
Man.
And I figured out I was working 90 plus hours a week,
Did you really calculate it
Oh,
up?
yeah. 90 plus hours a week, for years. And I tried not to think about it, but
it is what it is.
It is what it is, and so, by using, creating the CrestCore and getting professional property management set up, I gained, at least 40 of the hours back. But, I think that what you see is 1 to 20, 1 to 30, something like that. I mean, if you're by yourself, you run yourself ragged.
Even with 20 and 30.
Yeah, you're constantly, because you're using guys that you got to go meet them at Lowe's and go pay for the materials. You got to go let somebody in.
Because you don't have this whole thing set up.
You don't have the systems.
Literally do it yourself.
That's right. And
God,
so, and what we learned too is, to create the systems we want with automation and some of that stuff that we do, you got to have volume. So even, I listen to a lot of podcasts on property management, and, even those guys that, manage 200 or 300 houses, that's really just a 1-person, 2-person show.
Yeah.
And so they're running ragged for you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So they're running ragged for you, and that's a difference as well, that you see with the different sizes of property management companies. Mm-hmm. So you're just shifting that responsibility now.
Somebody else.
They have a personal touch as well, because they're touching every house, showing every house.
The catch is you got to get to that number to pay for those people too, right?
That's right.
You've got to be able to manage enough properties
Right.
to cover some overhead to get them. So there is a fine line of when do you jump ship and when do you hang on to what you've got.
And I've done some numbers before. I think we have an investor that's getting close to 50 to 75 houses, and to me that's a number that you probably could pay somebody to kind of oversee most of the calls, most of, you know what I mean? But there again, that's where you get, in my opinion, you get stuck in that you're asking somebody to be good at a ton of different stuff. Good with tenants on leasing, good with collections, which is, you're doing two different things.
That's
you're
two ends of the spectrum.
Leasing, you're a closer.
Yep.
Collections, you're
sympathizing,
empathy, but a hard stick of, I need your money.
Yep.
Then you got the accounting. Do you have software and that kind of stuff? So it gets pretty complicated on trying to figure that out as far as, building it yourself, as you're, and so that's what, we got a guy right now that's giving us 50 houses over time, as they go vacant.
Yep.
And he just realized he set up a system, but he did the numbers and using us, he's managing about 4 or 5 people. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Versus now he can just go manage the manager. Mm-hmm. Just watch his portal, watch.
That's what I talk to my investors. I use that phrase all the time: manage the manager.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's not like you're paying somebody and then you got to turn around and do the same job. But if you have 50 properties, I mean, you need to make sure that everything's being done properly on each one. I mean, it's not
check your vacancy report.
Yeah.
Check your collections report.
Yeah.
Check the bills. I mean, nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. This is a human capital business. Mm-hmm. I think that's, and just for your understanding, just to me, I think you need to stay in the loop. Those that are really, really passive, that to me, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yep.
Because you look up and a bunch of stuff's happened and you don't understand it, and
sure,
you could have sold that house.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean, and repositioned to another, based on what's going on with the tenant. And that's one thing we've learned. I mean, there's certain areas of Memphis that, never thought I'd say this, but I will never invest again.
Yeah. Just certain zip codes,
certain pockets of zip codes, not really the zip code, but certain pockets that I'm just like, I will not, in this pocket, I will never be back.
Isn't that
I say
amazing?
never. That's an absolute.
Yeah, you hate
I hate that absolutes. But if there's some revitalization or some industry,
Change.
I think Nike and all that up there on Warford
has really helped that area.
Has helped that area. That Scenic Hills area has been strong. I mean,
a lot of jobs.
That's a lot of jobs. They got to eat, got to get gas. You know what I mean? Like there's just stuff that comes out of the people that even just driving that come to work there.
That's right. So, how often do people or investors lean on you for advice on the product? Like how often do they come to you? Part of our notes here, not knowledgeable about the product that you're buying. How often do they lean on you? I mean, I see it every day and with people coming to me about different houses, but even before we got to the point to where we were at, how often were you getting the call from a current client that you were managing for, and they said, "Hey, Dan, what do you think about this house or this package or this area?"
I told Douglas this morning on our run that I feel like there's a big void in this area. Like, I don't do it enough. meaning most people just see a number on a website or a spreadsheet or whatever and just make a decision and go, versus really understanding the area, understand the expenses for that area, understand what you're getting into. So I spend half my time probably educating investors, but I mean, it could be a full-time job, or, I just don't think people are busy, but they just don't want to dig in and learn like they should, in my opinion.
Well, I see way more of, if it makes sense on a spreadsheet, then I'm good.
Yes,
you know
that's
what
right.
I mean? I don't want to say very rarely. About half the time I get into a conversation with an investor about specifics on the community, schools, crime, quality of pride of ownership or pride of a community,
right?
Not necessarily ownership, but pride of community and that sort of thing. And I have some investors that will get into that and dive right into it immediately, but the overwhelming amount do not. They okay, that number, that price, that rent, the taxes, the insurance, boom, let's go. And that's typical. And if they're that loose about it, I'm assuming maybe they were doing their own research on their own. But very rarely do I get a whole lot of diving into crime rates and schools and that sort of thing. They just literally look at it. Hey, I'm buying it for $50,000. It rents for $800, and here's the taxes and insurance and management, and they go with it. I'm in the studio this morning talking with Dan Butler with CrestCore Realty. We're going to take a real short break. Come back and we're going to finish up this segment on talking about management. We're going to get into why use a real estate agent that's into this business. I can obviously help you with some of that. So thank you guys for tuning in this morning. We'll be back in just a few minutes. You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on 107.9 The Voice.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. We'll be right back after this.
Now, here's Mid-South weather from News Channel 3's Severe Weather Center. Brought to you by the Crescent Club, hosting the people and ideas that moved Memphis forward for nearly 30 years. Poplar and I-240. Call for a free tour at 901-684-1010.
Windy and warm today. Gusting southerly winds will help bring temperatures into the mid and upper 70s. Strong showers or thunder showers likely for later this afternoon and this evening. Temperatures will drop dramatically into the 30s overnight. Sunshine mid-50s for your Wednesday. Come see ESP Insurance, your local Safeco Insurance representatives for all your home, auto, and business insurance needs. 4646 Poplar Avenue. Call 901-272-2244. I'm News Channel 3's Todd Demers on The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990.
Griffin, Clift, Everton, and Mashmeyer, PLLC, is a full-service law firm with over 50 years of experience in the Memphis area. Real estate closings have continued to be the forefront of their law practice, which include residential, commercial, and development real estate transactions, drafting and negotiation of real estate contracts and leases, business information, preparation of wills, probate, and estate planning. Their firm represents a number of builders, developers, investors, and local lending institutions, and is approved to close transactions for most local banks and mortgage companies. In addition, they offer title search, title examination services, and title insurance through several well-established title insurance companies in the Memphis area, as well as Tennessee and Mississippi. They strive to offer services in a prompt and timely fashion while advising and representing clients in a zealous and professional manner. Should their offered services be of need, please contact William N. Griffin Jr. or any of their attorneys at 901-752-1133. They can also be found online at www.gcemlaw.com or on Facebook.
Is it a good time to buy or refi? Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Are interest rates going sky high soon? Hi, I'm Ludi Calloway, the mortgage lady at iBank Mortgage. I tell my customers to ask questions, get answers. So join me every Monday morning at 8 and I will tell you what's going on in today's still changing mortgage world. Remember, most people think about mortgages a few times in their lives. I think about them every single day. Tune in Mondays at 8.
CBS Money Watch, sponsored by TheraWorks Relief.
Taxpayers in these 5 states are getting the most bang for their buck, according to a new survey by Wallet Hub. New Hampshire, Florida, South Dakota, Colorado, and Virginia have the highest return on investment when it comes to what their residents pay in taxes and what they get back from the government in terms of education, health, and safety. Alibaba, the Amazon of China, is spending billions of dollars to up its game in the food delivery business. It purchased a company with the English translation of hungry, valued at more than $9 billion. And the Make-A-Wish Foundation has launched a month-long World Wish Day campaign. And that's your CBS Money Watch report. In New York, I'm Laura Podesta.
To prevent and relieve muscle cramps in your legs and feet, use TheraWorks Relief. Get TheraWorks Relief today at select Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid pharmacies or TheraWorksRelief.com.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. And now, here's your host, Dean Harris.
All right, welcome back to the Memphis Real Estate Hour. Appreciate you guys tuning in this morning. Got Dan Butler here live in the studio, and we are talking about why use a management company, what benefits this has to you. First, let me get into real quick our investments of the week. If you guys have got your pen, 3,000 block of Bertram Cove, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. I mean, this is a great product here. It's a brick house, 38118, $800 rental. It's occupied at $800, and list price is $57,900. I put these on last week. I had 2 really good calls, and I even had somebody go. I mean, these should not last long. I imagine they'll be gone this week. But 3,000 block of Bertram Cove, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, $57,900. It's occupied at $800 a month. 4,000 block of Alamo, 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath. This is also a brick house in 38118. It's occupied at $825. List price is $59,900. 2 great products there you can get for just over $100,000. $1,625 in rent. You can back out of the math on there. It's probably around 12.5 or 13% return. Great numbers. 4,000 block of Alamo, 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath. It's in the 38118 zip code. It's occupied at $825. Now I've got one more. This BRRRR strategy, which is buy, rehab, refinance, rent, and repeat. It's a BRRRR strategy that we've talked about on biggerpockets.com. You guys can go in there and read a little bit more about the BRRRR strategy, but this property fits perfect. In a nutshell, what you do is you buy it, rehab it, turn around and refinance it, and typically it's because we're getting these low, buying these houses for cheap, you're appraising a lot higher and you're getting all of your money back out of it, and you can just turn around and repeat the process, hence the BRRRR strategy. 3,000 block for Shemwell, 3-bedroom, 1-bath property. Needs about $20,000 in rehab. This is an $850 rental, and it's listed for $39,900. We might be able to get it a little cheaper than that $39,900, but 3,000 block of Shemwell, great property for the BRRRR strategy. So if you have any questions about any of these properties that I've ever talked about for investments of the week, we post these on our website, CrestCoreRealty.com. You can register to become a preferred buyer on there. I'll reach out to you and touch base and see how I can better help you. So check those out on the website, CrestCoreRealty.com. All right, before we went to break, we were talking about why use a professional management company. Dan, we covered real estate investing as a side job. Time is your money. Do you want to grow slow? Work deals and financing. Do you want to manage properties and full-time job? If you don't, we talked about hiring a management company. You working 90 hours a week. Getting away from manufacturing and doing this full time. So knowledgeable about your product that you're buying. That's one thing as we were leaving for break that we talked about. But what about maximizing your time? Mm-hmm. Talk about, now with technology, you can pretty much buy anywhere.
Yeah.
The way you and Douglas got into this were tax sales. And now people can do that online from anywhere in the country.
I know, it's crazy.
So that opens that up.
Makes it more competitive for sure.
Yeah, way more competitive, a lot more sharks in the water. So talk about maximizing your time, and the difference of letting someone else manage that property versus you doing some of that, small work. How did shifting over to the management free up some of your time and maximize it?
Well, mine started way back in probably 2002. Just got married. You probably heard the story before.
I have. But go ahead. Listeners haven't.
Yeah, that's right. Where I was, fixing on my apartment on Monroe Avenue down in Midtown, and just I was worried about some thieves. It's kind of random, but
Yeah.
woke up middle of the night, couldn't sleep. Went and checked it out just to see if I could find who's breaking in apartments or cars and stuff. And
You were on a little stealth mission.
stealth mission. I was parked like a cop on the side of the road, looking at the apartment, waiting for something to happen. And my wife woke up, rolled over, and wasn't there. And she called me and said, "Where are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just sitting up here at the apartments, hanging out at 2:00 in the morning." And so it was a good conversation when I got home.
Oh, I could only imagine how well that went.
And it was kind of one of those, all right, we either going to figure out how to do this without you having to leave at 2:00 in the morning, or we need to sell this apartment. And I was like, well, we're not selling the apartment.
So
I
we need to figure this
got to
out.
figure this out. So, I think that's, and I think people run into that a lot, with whether it's interfering with your job, interfering with your marriage, because you want to do a good job when you have an asset that you've bought out there and want to take care of it. And, the hardest part is letting go.
It becomes personal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and it should.
Yeah, to some degree.
At first it should. You got to take that pride of, hey, this is mine.
This is mine, right?
This
You
is
own
something
it.
I'm doing. I'm taking responsibility for all the actions that are required to make this work properly.
Right.
Because I think if you enter into it solely as a business,
Very passive.
at the very beginning, I think you're setting yourself up for failure.
I agree.
I think you have to dive into it with, I am going to pay attention to everything at first. And then we've talked about this 100 times. Build your team around you, right? And once you trust that team and you can build the right people around you, then I think it is just as important as I'm saying it is to dive into it initially. I think it's just as equally important to back out of it, to come off of it some and trust, because we're sitting here talking out of both sides of our mouth if I'm not, because I'm telling you, hey, dive into it and take ownership and take possession of what you're doing. But then once you've kind of laid the foundation and the framework for success to build up, then I think it's important that you step back and allow the people you've set in place to work for you.
Right.
The process that what are the 76ers saying right now? Trust the process. I mean, you've got to trust your process that you're building. So maximizing your skill set. I mean, this is great too. And I'll let you read it, but maximizing your skill set's important. Why?
For me, it all goes back to even growing up. My mom said I was good at taking things apart. I'm an engineer, by degree.
Yep.
Good at things at taking apart, but never could put them back together. So, in summary, I'm good at analysis, terrible with a hammer. I
love that, because I am too. I can't. You don't want me to have a hammer in my hand doing anything.
No, I mean, and I learned that from Rich Dad Poor Dad. For our listeners that want to, if they haven't read the book, I don't know many people that investment world that haven't read that book, but one of the key takeaways I got, besides other people's money and leveraging and that kind of stuff, was just focusing on what you're good at and let others, like for example, painting an apartment or painting a house. Could we get it done for buying the paint for $100? Absolutely. Would I be there for 3
time?
Yeah, would I be there for 3 weeks trying to cut it in and paint all over the floor and clean it up? And yes, why not pay a painter? And then you get progressions of painters. That's what I learned, over this time. Like, it gets back to get what you pay for. Everybody wants the cheapest deal, but that cheapest deal, the guy doesn't have insurance, doesn't have workers' comp, is not reliable. Sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not. Gives you a bag full of receipts. I remember that day that I got one of my guys, he'd want draws every week, and then 3 months later gave me literally a grocery sack of receipts. And then I had to spend hours
going through it,
cleaning it up, and double bill me here, double bill me there. Just a mess. So you pay for that technology, somebody that gives you a professional scope. You know what I mean? Like, it
absolutely.
So that's something that you learn as well with, especially when you're investing across the state. I was talking to a guy yesterday. It was just, that was his biggest concern. He's just starting out. He's got a house in Arizona, but trying to do Memphis, and his taste of Memphis so far has been terrible because, the way the quotes have come back and they're nebulous and not buttoned up, and so he knows if he goes and uses them,
that's the same what he's going to get the whole time.
That's what he's going to get the whole time, and the job's going to be halfway done, and and that's what you're paying guys like us. We're getting the relationship going up. I was talking to a turnkey friend of mine yesterday who, you know, he was talking about a high-end house, rehabbing it, and it's that last 10% you're trying to get done. And it's no different for us. I mean, that's, you know,
the last part.
We got 4 guys in the field in quadrants of the city that their whole job is estimating, and then the other half is just trying to push a sub to finish, you know, and constantly. So we're constantly having to, you know, revolve out subs that, you know, kind of like Jack Welch, you know what I mean? Like he always, every year he's cut off the C's.
Yeah.
And so what we've done is kind of the same thing, like
trimming the fat.
Trimming the fat. But if you think about Jack Welch and his method, you know, he'd trim off the C's, so you got A's and B's, and then you hire some people. But some of the B's turn into C's because you keep elevating your expectations and where you're trying to go. And so somebody that might have been a B last year turns into a C because of where you're trying. And that's kind of the same concept we're trying to do. Like our A's and B, you know, looks different than what they did several years ago.
Right. So, guys, we're live in the studio talking with Dan Butler of CrestCore Realty about why use a property management company. What about the legal liabilities, Dan? Understanding the laws and codes. You know, a lot of people ask me, hey, Dean, would you put these in an LLC? I mean, my answer is always yes. You know, for what it costs to set up an LLC, the answer is always yes. And then, I get that famous question, well, what if I create an LLC for each one? That doesn't protect you any further than the one does. I mean, if you had different products, maybe you could separate them. But talk about the legal liabilities and understanding the laws and code when it comes to using a property manager.
What's that phrase? Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't know what you don't know, and as you get further and deeper in this, you know, with our volume, you start seeing all kinds of situations.
Man, it's new every day.
It's new every day. Oh, I was trying to remember what the one. Oh, I had one yesterday. A tenant came up and wanted out of her lease. Were you?
No, I wasn't there.
It was the first one I ever had. She thought her house was had been, what do you call, witchcraft.
What?
Yeah. Said that as soon as she walked in, just these vibes and
wanted out of the lease.
Wanted out of the lease. Just moved in.
She thought it was haunted.
Haunted. Yeah, just voodoo type. Yeah. So that was the first, but I don't have insurance. I don't have insurance for something like that, but
you don't?
No, but our insurance is, you know, every year we've added something new to the policy, you know, like mold coverage, or, you know, we always had errors and omissions, you know. I mean, there's all kinds of insurance that you got to cover because you're dealing with people, you know, and dealing with, you know, a lot of things that you're exposed to. So you got to, and that's where the whole property management thing comes in. Like, I don't want to scare people, but again, what you don't know is what you don't know. Like, you know,
if a house burns down, you got kids. I mean,
there's lawsuits coming.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't know if our listeners know this, but like, for example, when we file an eviction, you know, there's attorneys that all they do is download who filed eviction yesterday, and today they're mailing them a letter. Hey, you should file bankruptcy. I see that we'll protect your debt and get you out of this situation. And, you know, when somebody's being evicted, you know, they're worried about their family.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, everything's out the window.
Right.
You know, they're willing to do anything and everything to kind of hold steady in what's going on. Because you're right. It's typically there's families involved, kids involved, and, you know, rightfully so, you know, dads, moms will do anything they can to protect their family.
I don't know how they do this, but there's some that know when you go to the emergency room. And they'll send you a, you know, that, you know, ambulance chaser lawyer sends you a letter saying, I can protect you. Yeah. We'll take care of you, you know, that kind of thing. So because of, I heard a statistic the other day, like about the number of lawsuits, like I think we're 75% of the world's lawsuits happen in the U.S.
Really?
It's some huge number. Obviously we have the most lawyers.
Yeah.
You know, but we set ourselves up to be that kind of society, you know, whereas the other societies don't allow that, you know, some of the frivolous and some of the stuff that we allow to happen. Does that make sense? Because what we've learned is
we set up a community that accepts it,
right? And so we can be sued. I could sue you right now, because you looked at me funny. And
that's right.
Defamation of character,
and
or whatever.
You'll find lawyers that will take your money to do it. There's part of the problem.
Part. Yeah. So you've got to pay to defend that.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's the whole, going back to property management. That's what we're here for, is just, you know, help, you know, think about all those issues. We've been through a ton of issues, so we can help. You know, Landlord Tenant Act. I mean, that's a very robust document that's probably 2 inches thick.
Insomnia
that protects, you know, protects the landlord, but also takes a lot of provisions protect the tenant.
Yeah.
And so we had to create our lease that actually, counterbalances all the stipulations for the tenant in the Landlord-Tenant Act. Does that make sense? Like,
Yep.
Just instead of having a 2-page lease, that's what I started with. It's 2 pages. I was like, I don't worry about that.
And as time goes, stuff
You just
happens.
learn,
You add to it.
You add to it. You just gotta say, well, I got to cover myself there. Got to cover myself here. So.
What are some of the other ways? What are some of the other ways that, or reasons why you would use a professional property manager?
If you're not going to be in your hometown and you want to scale, like people in California and New York, I don't want to say they don't have any choices, but they almost don't have any choices if they want a return on their investment. Mm-hmm. Or Seattle, or somewhat, we're starting to get a lot from the state of Washington, and Texas is on fire, so they're having trouble, unless they're going to do speculative investing where they bank on the appreciation. Mm-hmm. You got to look elsewhere. So you're going to have to rely on a team, and that's where the property management would come in, mm-hmm. to help you to be able to diversify. So, my small example is I went to one zip code to start, and I learned real quickly that if I was going to scale this business, I had to look at multiple market or zip codes, and mm-hmm. kind of same thing for somebody in California. They've got to look at they have no choice but to look at other cities, in my mm-hmm. opinion, to be able to get that return they want.
And then lastly, on why use a professional property manager, creating a business. If you want to be a professional, in my mind, and you really want to make this a business stuff, then I think it's important and want to scale your business was mm-hmm. part of our notes. But talk about, for a minute, going from the mom and pop shop that you mm-hmm. started off with to, your large portfolio now to the management company. I mean, why is it important for an investor out there to say, hey, if I want to scale, a professional manager is something I need to use?
I don't think you can scale without that team. I don't think you can scale, unless you want to figure out how to build your own. If you want to own real estate and scale it as a business, I don't think you can without, using property management and all the other people your team, the GCs and attorneys and insurance company. I mean, we've had that episode probably a year ago, but your core team,
yep.
You've got to have that if you want to scale. If you don't, then you're very limited. Mm-hmm. I can remember, doing 10 houses a year, buying them and fixing them up and renting them. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was taxed.
Yeah.
I was done. That was a tough year. And now we have a system to plop in place. I could buy 10 this month if I wanted to. It wouldn't even be a bump in the road. We got the system to handle it. And so, but I couldn't have done that without the team and creating. And again, not just property management, but all your rest of your team. You got to have the attorney that can handle 10 closings.
Your vendor partners are huge. We say it over and over again, but your vendor partners and the team you build around you is huge.
Absolutely.
Guys, we're going to take a real short break. I'm live in the studio with Dan Butler of CrestCore Realty. We just wrapped up why use a professional property management company. When we come back to the last segment of the show, we're going to talk about using a licensed real estate agent and why some of those things can help you and be to your advantage. You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on AM 990 Memphis.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. We'll be right back after this.
Now, here's Mid-South weather from News Channel 3's Severe Weather Center. Brought to you by the CrestCore Club, hosting the people and ideas that moved Memphis forward for nearly 30 years. Butler and I-240. Call for a free tour at 901-684-1010.
Windy and warm today. Gusting southerly winds will help bring temperatures into the mid and upper 70s. Strong showers or thunder showers likely for later this afternoon and this evening. Temperatures will drop dramatically into the 30s overnight. Sunshine mid-50s for your Wednesday. Come see ESP Insurance, your local Safeco Insurance representatives for all your home, auto, and business insurance needs. 4646 Poplar Avenue. Call 901-272-2244. I'm News Channel 3's Todd Demers on The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990.
Griffin, Clift, Everton, and Mashmeyer, PLLC, is a full-service law firm with over 50 years of experience in the Memphis area. Real estate closings have continued to be the forefront of their law practice, which include residential, commercial, and development real estate transactions, drafting and negotiation of real estate contracts and leases, business information, preparation of wills, probate, and estate planning. Their firm represents a number of builders, developers, investors, and local lending institutions, and is approved to close transactions for most local banks and mortgage companies. In addition, they offer title search, title examination services, and title insurance through several well-established title insurance companies in the Memphis area, as well as Tennessee and Mississippi. They strive to offer services in a prompt and timely fashion while advising and representing clients in a zealous and professional manner. Should their offered services be of need, please contact William N. Griffin Jr. or any of their attorneys at 901-752-1133. They can also be found online at www.gcemlaw.com or on Facebook.
Is it a good time to buy or refi? Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Are interest rates going sky high soon? Hi, I'm Ludi Calloway, the mortgage lady at iBank Mortgage. I tell my customers to ask questions, get answers. So join me every Monday morning at 8 and I will tell you what's going on in today's still changing mortgage world. Remember, most people think about mortgages a few times in their lives. I think about them every single day. Tune in Mondays at 8.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. And now, here's your host, Dean Harris.
All right, welcome back to the Memphis Real Estate Hour. I'm live here in the studio talking with Dan Butler, CrestCore Realty. First segment was on, or talked about why use a professional management company. I'm going to post the show right after on our Facebook page right after it's over, so you guys can go check that out. But lots of interesting stuff there. Our last kind of 10 minutes here of the show, let's talk about, why use an agent. And if it isn't me, shame on you for sure. But no, I'm kidding. But find an agent to use. Yeah. If you're buying, really, I say this if you're buying any real estate. I've worn different hats in real estate before. I've sold strictly new construction. I've done BPOs and market analysis for third-party companies across the country, your Wells Fargo's and Countrywide. So I've done some deep analysis of our market here and properties with those BPOs. Now for the last 7 or 8 years, I've really honed in on investment property and the different areas of that. So it's important to not only use an agent, but use an agent that's in that. I mean, you don't want to go to your top retail agent in the market and say, hey, find me investment property. They're not going to know, their hat from the whole ground. Same thing as you come to me and say, hey, Dean, I'd like for you to help me find the best $1 million property that's out there. I'm probably going to refer you to a $1 million agent. So what are some of the reasons? And initially you weren't using me. I mean, we've been talking at holiday functions for years about this sort of thing. Right. And you were using agents. So go back to even that before I started working with you. Why did you decide, hey, let me engage a real estate agent and see what that does for me or how it helps?
I started out without an agent, just kind of doing my own thing.
Yep.
A couple things. You realize that their network is much stronger than yours in this space.
As much as you like to think it isn't.
That's right. I mean, they're very strong. They talk a lot. They meet, email, social media. So I just realized my net could be cast wider by going to an agent.
And it costs you no money.
It costs me no money. Mm-hmm. One trick I would do is just say, you keep all the commission.
Yeah.
Whatever, because I had my license as well. But the thing that also that I feel like we've developed, with us, that's different than when I first started. I would just get these lists every day, of 50 houses that were on the market, 20 houses.
48 of them you had no interest in.
Yeah, 48 of them out of the 50 I had no interest in. So I had to peruse, I had to think through, all right, where is that? What's that price? What's that rent? And so I'd spend an hour perusing the list.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing that I've enjoyed in our model that we've helped, even for us or for other investors, is just, we don't send a list. We send you what you're looking for.
It's catered to the specific investor.
That's right.
I don't, I get 20 houses a day.
Right.
Just whatever.
That's right.
And I could just funnel. It's way easier.
It is easier.
Just to stick everybody on an email list, and they don't want it, they'll delete it.
Right.
Yeah, but that becomes just trash email for your client.
Right.
You're really not doing them a service.
No, I mean that's an agent putting on autopilot. I think that's the lazy way out. I think you got to create that value by just getting that agent or that investor what they want. Don't send them stuff that they don't want because you're just wasting their time and, quite frankly, wasting your time. So.
They have a code of ethics to go by. A lot of people say, well, I'll catch a wholesaler, or I'll catch a property on Craigslist, or there'll be something on Zillow. And that's fine. You can even do your research to go find all that, but have a licensed agent vet it for you.
Right.
They've got a fiduciary responsibility to you. I mean, they're supposed to. They're not to lie to you and lead you down a wrong path.
Right.
One thing I always talk about is I'm only as good as my last deal. Although I'm building a partnership with you, at first it was with you and Douglas, but it goes off to every other investor I have. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking for that monthly grind, right? I'm not trying to find new clients every month so I can hit a monthly note or number. I want to build a rapport with that person. That way, if they're going to buy 20, well, let me help you buy all 20. But if we get to 14 and 14 was bad, they're going to have a hard time looking at me for number 15. Right. They're going to start to go elsewhere and look for other options. So I'm only as good as my last deal.
I think agents as a whole, you got to get away from the transaction mindset. And I think maybe that's the difference between retail and investor. Because retail,
if they get 2 transactions out of somebody every 5 to 7 years, then they're doing their job.
That's right. And that's a transaction relationship. You're what do you call it? Drip campaigning them.
Yep.
A few times a year just to keep your name out there with a calendar or a postcard or
Happy Easter.
Yeah, Happy Easter, Merry Christmas, that kind of thing. Just to get your name in front of them so they think, oh wait, when we're going to sell, who should I use? I'd love. Do you know this number by chance? Like, how many people do go back to the last agent they used?
I don't, but I know it's not high.
Is it 50%? 25%?
I bet it's just 25 because there's some agents that are extremely good at that follow up.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're not doing that follow up for that person's transaction again in 5 years. They're doing it for the referrals.
The referral of the network.
They want them to be at church and say, or at the grocery store or whatever, and say, hey, so and so did a fantastic job. Here's her phone number, or here's his phone number. So, and they want that transaction in 5 years. But the main reason why they do that is to keep them in their mind. If it was a great experience, they'll talk about it and so forth and get those referrals.
Well, one thing I've learned from you and just watching all the agents out there is, get in your lane and be really good at that lane. Yeah. When you first start out, I got to meet some agents sometimes, and they'll say, all right, I want to do commercial, and I want to do investor, and I want to do multifamily, I want to do retail. You can't do all those out on the start. I'd argue somewhat that you can't do all of them long term unless you have a team, and it's a much more complicated deal. But so they're getting a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, but they're never really getting good at
anything,
at one of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's where I've seen just tremendous changes picking that agent that's good. We'll get a listing from one of our clients has, let's say, a midtown retail house.
Yep. We
can do it, but it's probably best served by somebody else outside of us sometimes, depending on what the situation.
Typically,
they want staging.
I'll tell you where the phase or the stage that I've gotten to is, if I know you personally and we've worked a real estate transaction in the past, I'll work it for you, and I'll market it the right way and do the same things. But if it's something brand new that just pops up and it's somebody I don't know and I don't really want to help, I'll refer it out because I don't feel like I do have the time to give
a retail
listing. Yeah. Well, I can do 1 or 2, Dan, but I couldn't do 20. I couldn't have 20 retail listings right now.
Right.
I have a couple, 3 or 4 right now, and I'm properly servicing those. But if it got to where I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I would start to refer those out. Same way I would say a retail agent needs to refer out their 1 or 2 or investment deals.
Sure.
They're not going to find the right house. They're not going to be able to do the analytics with the investor. They're not going to be able to properly vet that home in that area from an investment standpoint. Because as you know, it's 2 different vetting processes.
Yeah.
Looks 2 different things. Vendor partners, agents, the agents that you've worked with in the past, did any of them have vendor partners? Do they have any of that they could come up with?
Not a whole lot.
Right.
A little bit. Maybe a inspector, maybe an appraiser or something like that, but not, most of them don't think that, here's my list of partners right here.
Yeah.
Here's who I go to bat for, that I'm going to put my name out for, that this is who you should stick with. And that's what we've tried to do. That's what we work hard towards. I have the sheet
to pass out now. I've got bankers, closing attorneys, inspectors, everybody that we have worked with in our circle at CrestCore that we trust, that we know do a great job for our clients. So it is important to have your vendor partners, closing attorneys, title, inspectors, and so on. It's just important to build those relationships. And the last thing I had on this one was the exit strategy. If the agent helps you buy these properties, you need to have an exit strategy. Every investor should be looking at it that way. Hey, I wonder if I have to get out, or wonder if I need to get out for whatever reason. The agent that helped you buy those should also be able to help you
articulate.
Sell those. Yeah. I've got a perfect story or an example. Our guy from Arkansas, I helped him buy all 33 or 34 of his properties.
Right.
He now has one.
Right.
He's liquidated. He's getting into a different area of real estate, so he's liquidated all of them. I helped him sell every one of them.
Right.
So that
make
is
a little money.
And make a little money. And for me as an agent, it's perfect because there's transactions.
Yeah.
For him, on the other hand, it's perfect because he rehabbed the homes. He collected rent for a couple of years, and then when it was time for him to get out for whatever reason he had, I could help him properly sell those homes to investors that I'm already working with.
So I think that's a great question for our listeners that they should keep in mind when they're talking about getting into whatever the product they're getting into. Is, can your agent
sell it?
Yeah, sell it. What? All right, if I buy this for $100,000 today, in 3 years, what does that look like? How do you get me out? What is that marketing? What is my buyer? What is my profile? You know what I mean? Like, just.
And the good news is we can answer that because we've been doing this for 7, 8, 9 years now. We could answer that question. We can get you back out of that product. So it's something to keep in mind. If you're interviewing agents or talking to other agents and getting into investing, make sure that they can. They've got a good sphere of influence. They've got good vendor partners that they can go to.
What value add they're going to bring?
Yeah, how can they help you get different?
If they're just making offers.
Yeah,
that's not who you want. I don't think.
No.
You want somebody that's out there.
That's right.
Finding the deals, making those relationships, bringing you. No, you need to buy this one.
That's right. If
that's what I had. I wish I had.
If you're not hearing that from your agent, you need to buy this one. Yeah. Then I don't think you're doing, or I don't think you have the right person.
I probably could have bought a lot more early on if I had that person
that said, "Hey, you need to get this."
Yeah. Yep. Versus me driving it. So.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you coming on today, guys. You caught the Memphis Real Estate Hour. We talked this morning about why use a property management company, why to use an agent that you've got helping you find deals all over the city. If you have any questions about this, shoot me an email, dean@crestcore.com. Go to our website to check out the investments of the week. That's CrestCoreRealty.com. Thank you guys for listening so much. We'll catch you next Tuesday on the Memphis Real Estate Hour.